Says finish.
Finished. We didn't start. Live. Oh. Just a few technical difficulties as we start tonight. Hi there, Joyce at Delightful Quilting and Sewing, a quilting dealer in Avon, New York, with another Tech Tuesday for you. I'm hoping that tonight the technique that I show you will be helpful to you as you use your stitch regulated machine. One of the things that most people don't realize about the stitch regulated machines is like the Pro and the Fun Quilter and the CLX and even to some extent the NV. These machines and all of them out there on the market with stitch regulators, the motor is actually starting and stopping with every single stitch that it takes. So start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. Very, very quickly that motor is starting and stopping to create those stitches as the encoders tell the machine to fire those stitches. So sewing with a stitch regulated machine requires a little bit different technique than if you're using the non-regulated mode. One of the problems that I see in the many customers that I've had over the years is they don't quite understand how to work with the stitch regulated feature, and they complain about getting a long stitch in the point, things like that. So I'm going to show you the techniques that I teach my students and my customers so that they can use their stitch regulated machine and be very happy with the kind of stitching that they get with it. So I'm going to be demonstrating on the Knolting Pro tonight. Hopefully you'll be able to see I've got black fabric here and neon green thread. So first of all, one of the things that is important with any of the stitching that you do, you always want to bring your bottom thread to the top. And you do that by holding on to your top thread, taking a single stitch and moving your machine to the side, pulling that bobbin thread to the top, and then going back and taking a couple of security stitches, not in the same hole, but very close to the same hole as the first stitch. It needs to be over a thread or two on the fabric in order for it to lock in adequately. One of the first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the wrong way to do it, and then we're going to learn how to do it the right way. So I'm going to set my stitch length fairly long here on 8 stitches to the inch, just to start out with, because I'm going to force the machine to do something that I don't want you to do when you get done learning what I'm going to teach you. The problem with most quilters when they first start out is there's a tendency to stop as they get to a point, and then they go out. They come in, stop, go out, come in, stop, go out. You don't want to do that. The important thing with a stitch regulated machine is to keep that machine moving and to keep that motor, the inertia in the motor, going so that that machine doesn't all of a sudden go like, oh, I'm not moving, I'm stopped, and therefore I quit. So then you go to move the machine out and all of a sudden it goes like, oh, I'm not done. And it tries to fire a stitch, but by the time it fires the stitch, it's gone too far. The machine has moved too far and you get a long stitch. So this is the wrong way to do it. Turn my machine on, my green light is on. I come in, I stop, and then I go out, stop. And if my husband comes up here, you'll be able to see I was able to force it because I stopped at the point and I pulled it out too fast. It did not make a stitch the way it was supposed to, and in fact, it had some extra longer stitches here than what they should have been. This is the wrong way to use a stitch regulated machine. The next technique that I'm going to show you is the correct way to use the machine. And that is you're going to move into the point and out of the point very smoothly. And I think of it like a nanosecond of a hesitation at the point. So I'm going to go in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, without really stopping at the point. Now this is at 8 stitches to the inch. I'm not getting long points here with my in and out, and I keep thinking this in my head, in and out. I'm going to shorten my stitch up to about 12, which is what I typically quilt at. And we'll look at it again. In, out, in, out. And you can see that I barely hesitate as I go in and out of my point. Oops, I just broke my thread. I barely hesitate as I go in to the point and come back out of the point. I do not want my machine motor to stop. I want that machine motor to keep on rotating with the inertia that it has. And as I come back out, that motor is still moving, and it's still able to cause the machine to fire a stitch because that motor is not thinking, oh, I need to start again. I want to keep it going. So we'll bring up our thread again here and knot it off again. And we'll do some others. In, out, in, out. And so on. We want to keep moving in and out of the point. And when you move in and out of the point without stopping and allowing the motor to stop, then you do not get those long points. And this is going to take a little bit of practice, especially if you've been quilting for a long time. You're going to discover that what's happening is you go into that point and then you stop and think, you know, I'm going to come back out. Think ahead. So the key in working with your technique on all of this is when you're coming into the point, already be moving your eye back out. Always have your eye ahead of where you want your needle to go. It's like driving a car. You never look at the hood of the car, you look down the road. So when I get to my point here, I'm already looking for the path that I want my feather to travel. When I get to this point, I'm already looking around for the path on the next part of the feather. Regardless of whether you're doing feathers or whether you're doing hooks and loops or anything else, look ahead, and especially when you are going in and out of points, don't think about stopping at the point. Think about going in and just think in your head, in, out, in, out, in, out. And when you do that consciously, your quilting will dramatically change, and you'll discover that you will have nice fine stitching like this. You will not end up with long stitches like we had over here and here and in here, those long stitches, because I paused too long in the point. So that's basically the technique for working with your stitch regulated machine, whether it's your Knolting Fun Quilter, whether it's the CLX, whether it's the Pro, and even in the precision stitch of the NV. The idle stitch is something a little bit different. I'll cover another time on the NV, but this is how you work with a stitch regulated machine. So I just wanted to point out, again, our book, Guide to Quilting with Your Knolting, that my husband helped write a little bit of the content in. And on page 48 in here, I talk about getting started, the actual sewing procedure, pulling your thread up at the beginning, pulling your thread up at the end, always having your bobbin thread on the top when you start, pulling your bobbin thread up to the top when you get done with your stitching. And there's lots of other content in here, everything from loading your quilt all the way through needles and tension and batting and working with pantographs and all kinds of things. This is available on our website, www.delightful-qs.com. So hopefully this technique on working with your stitch regulated machine will help you improve the quality of your stitching. I'll look forward to seeing you next time on Tech Tuesday. Have a great week quilting.